Welcome back to the channel, folks. I'm Vulkan, and over the past few weeks, it's been a busy time for action RPG fans. We've seen lots of new ARPGs that were either announced or released, and one of those new games is Undecember. And today we're going to talk about what this game is and my first impressions, along with a review from some players who have put tons of hours in already. Now, I'd also like to thank Line Games for sponsoring this video, and if you like what you see, you can check out the link below to download Undecember. So let's go ahead and let's get this thing kicked off. So first, Undecember is a hardcore PC and mobile action RPG hack and slash game. Now, Undecember takes the classic Diablo formula and iterates on it to add a few new twists. The Steam page will tell you that the game focuses on players creating their own unique builds, using the game's classless approach combined with a rune system that lets you augment skills. And all of this is wrapped in a large campaign that's peppered with end-game dungeons, boss raids, and you can do these with either friends or you can join a guild. Now, another big thing here that I was happy to see is that there's no autoplay in the game. See, when it comes to mobile games, I'm just not a huge fan of ones that introduce autoplay. So I was happy to see Undecember completely avoid that. So that's the high overview, but how does this actually work out in game? So let's get started with a little bit of gameplay. So Undecember, to me, has some great visuals that mix a sort of Final Fantasy art style with the isometric point of view. Now, if you're someone who requires games to have a high level of visuals, then you shouldn't be disappointed here. But just know visuals don't make up everything, right? Combat in Undecember is also immediately satisfying. At the very beginning of the game, you're given a small demo of what high-end builds will be able to do for melee, bows, and casters. It's a really great teaser scenario that lets you experience the power fantasy right from the get-go. Now, once you begin the game, you're going to be thrown back down to peasant levels immediately. You're going to be right back down to one skill, basic equipment, and you have to work to rebuild what you just had. But even with less synergy and power, the experience of slaying hordes of enemies still doesn't lose its appeal. Combat still feels meaty and has great feedback no matter how you're doing the slaying. And you'll be doing all of this combat throughout different acts of a lengthy campaign that takes you through a variety of environments and boss battles. Now, this is where I feel like Undecember does a good job of separating itself from some other action RPGs. I have enjoyed the story so far. I feel like it's somewhat put together and has kept me intrigued the whole time. So I won't go into spoilers, just know there's enough there for all of you lore people out there that you probably will have a good time. Okay, so we talked about gameplay, but I want to touch on the thing that everyone seems to be enjoying with Undecember, and that's the Rune System. So this is their version of a skill system that players can use to build their characters. Now, the way this works is that you're going to acquire skill runes that grant your character a skill. And then these runes will have slots and colors on each edge. You have red, green, blue, and white, and these are referred to just generally as slots. And from these slots, you can attach different support runes. Now, these range from simple things like increasing damage to also casting skills while channeling or cast when you take damage. There are infinite possibilities here, and this is one of the things that really drew me into the game originally. Now, all of these are attached to a rune board. You can slot as many skills in here as you would like, but there is some give and take. So just know the more skills you slot, the less support runes you can have room for, and the less chains you can make. So you want to make sure to plan things out and maximize your space. But the nice thing is, if you do mess up, you can always remove them and start over. So since the game's come out, my Discord and I have had a pretty good time tying all kinds of crazy skill combinations together to see how they work out. It's a really fun system, and it's one that someone like me really enjoys, because it gives me some freedom to experiment and find some really kind of weird pairings that work out super well. But latching a bunch of runes together isn't the only way you can upgrade your character. You also have the Zodiac System. Now, this system immediately reminds me of Grim Dawn's Devotion system, which is great because I felt like that extra layer of customization really helped expand a playstyle that you were chasing after. Now, in Undecember, the Zodiac System is twofold. First, you have the primary stat points that you can allot, which are strength, dexterity, and intelligence. Now, these are going to provide you with direct stats, but these also define what type of character you are. So you need to use these key stats to upgrade and enhance runes, so you want to make sure you're picking the right ones that are going to help you in the long run. Now, the second system is where you can start to get a little bit more detailed. Now, there are multiple constellations you can choose from in order to enhance your build, whether it's a caster, a melee, a summon. pick the one that best fits your style and unlock the passives that it gives you. And then as you finish each constellation, a new one will unlock with even more passives to earn. It's a very simple and powerful system that helps give your character a little more firepower. Now, the very last way you can enhance your character is through gear. So Undecember has the classic rarity tiers we've seen throughout ARPG history, and honestly doesn't stray far from that. And personally, I think this is like one thing that seems to work extremely well in this genre. So to all the other developers out there, don't reinvent the wheel. So just continue with this. It seems to work really well. So here you're going to collect various pieces of gear that each provide a handful of stats that boost your damage and survivability. And as you climb the rarity tiers, the items will get more and more powerful, ultimately ending with legendary gear, which has the highest stats and sometimes even gives effects that you can build around. So those are all the ways you can build and customize your character, but let's talk about the other huge part of Undecember, and that's currencies. So in Undecember, you have a plethora of currencies that are used to augment items and runes. So for runes, you have ones that'll randomly change the slot color, the slot location, it'll move slot locations around. And then beyond those simple ones, you have others that'll automatically set a rune to like 5 or 6 slots. It'll upgrade the rune's rarity, which increases its effectiveness. And there's tons more out there. But that's not all of the currencies. You also have a ton for the gear system we just explained. Because remember, Undecember has a gear system that's familiar to any ARPG fan, right? You see the classic rarity of items. They have more affixes the rarer they are. And then these items do have a subsystem. Items need to be revealed using a currency to actually unlock and utilize their affixes. Now, this is one source of frustration for me when it comes to Undecember. So when I received my first rare drop in the game, it had 5 affixes on it, all of which had a question mark, which meant I needed to use a rare birth essence to reveal them. And here is where the RNG rears its ugly head. Because when you use that essence, it doesn't just reveal them all and you're good to go, you can use the item. No, instead, it'll randomly choose whether to reveal 1, 2, some of them, all of them. And to me, this is completely unnecessary. Because why should I get excited about a loot drop when I then have to return to town and just slam essence after essence into it, hoping to unlock the full potential of the item, or just live with having half of it identified and the other half not identified. And then you have to do this over and over for every single piece of gear you have because they all function this way. So the gear and the system itself is great. I don't have any issues with how it works, but the currency portion detracts a lot of value and it keeps me from getting pumped about a drop. Because if I don't have just a handful of essence, I can't truly benefit from the item. I would much rather see them just take the birth essence, allow you to identify all of the affixes on the item, and then get out there and continue using it. There's just not a huge reason for this in the game outside of keeping players logged in and trying to grind. And this is a really good segue into my only real issue with the game, and that's the cash shop. Undecember did go all in on their ability to let players buy lots of key resources like currencies. Now, the cash shop does sell regular stuff like stash tabs, skins, and consumables, but you can also purchase those rune currencies I mentioned earlier. Now, this has caused a big rift in the community where one side believes the cash shop has gone too far by allowing players to buy power through all of the rune currencies, and the other side feels this is just a pay for convenience factor, since everything available in the shop can actually be earned through grinding. So there is sort of that balance. Now, if you plan on picking up this game and giving it a try, just know that this is a thing that exists and it may skew your experience. But I do know each person is different on how they view cash shops. So before we wrap this up with my final impressions, I did want to share some thoughts from a player who has spent lots of time in the game so far. So here are his key takeaways. He said, Undecember is one of those games you're simply going to love or hate. Personally, they've been really loving it. Unlike some other ARPGs on the market, bosses are actually quite challenging, and the game isn't based around blasting through the leveling process as fast as you can and then grinding a few endgame systems. Instead, it's all about the journey. Speaking of endgame, raids are quite fun, and they're done in a way that they've never seen an ARPG before. Crafting can be quite time-consuming and gold-heavy without purchasing crafting slots, but the results are incredibly rewarding, and it's a fun system to use. Overall, the selling points of the game for this individual are its difficulty and a large variety of playstyle builds that you can make. So those are the key takeaways from a 40+ hour player so far. Now for me, the game does offer players a great action RPG to try for free that allows you to craft all kinds of different builds and play styles. The visuals and strong storytelling are a big plus, and if you want to avoid the cash shop and just play the game for what it is, then I think you're going to have a really good time. So that's it, everybody. If you're interested in giving Undecember a try, check out the link below for more information. But let me know in the comment section below what you think about the game. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, this has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.